I hope all is well. Hello, welcome in, welcome in. I'm excited to talk about our topic today. Let me turn my stuff down. Hey, how you been? I hope all is well. We are live on both YouTube and Instagram. Let me turn this down a little bit. Today we're talking about, what are we talking about? We're talking about moving past rejection today. Let me get my notes up, and I need my charger, actually. Because the last thing I need is for my stuff to die. So let me plug this in. Here we are. Hopefully this doesn't mess up my sound. I hope it does not. I hope that should be okay. Sound should be okay. Yeah, we should be good. Okay, perfect. Welcome in everybody. I am going to go ahead and dive in because we got a lot to go through today. If this is your first time, my name is Debbie. I am a certified mindfulness coach discussing all things mental health. I'm also currently a counseling intern. I'll be sitting with clients soon here. In graduate school, wrapping up my studies to be a therapist, and super excited about that. But I love doing these lives. We do a live every week. This past poll that we did for today's live was pretty much everybody voted for all three. So all three of the topics I had posted had gotten the same amount of votes. So it looks like that's going to be our next three topics for the next 3 weeks, y'all. Thank you all for voting on the YouTube. So today we're talking about moving past rejection. Next week, actually I can look that up really quick. Next week we will, let's see. Let's see, here we go. So next week we'll most likely do radical self-care, and then the following week we'll do setting a motivating environment, because yeah, we have 12 votes and everyone was pretty equal across the board. So I'm excited about that. Thank you all for voting. So yeah, let's jump in. Moving past rejection. One thing that I want us to understand, if you don't take anything else away from this live, this is the one thing that I want us to really hone in on, is that rejection is tough, but it's also a part of life that we are not going to be able to escape, right? Like, that's the real honest truth about rejection. And even though it is tough to navigate, hi Hiru, welcome in. I'm just seeing comments, so I'm sorry if this took a bit. Thank you, Tanner. Hello. Thank you for coming in and joining. This is very much a very interactive live. Thank you, Davo. This is a very interactive live. Feel free to jump in and ask questions during this time. I appreciate you all for joining. Okay, so like I said, if you're going to take anything away from this live, just understand that rejection is going to be a part of life. Let me see. I just saw another comment, and for some reason they're disappearing. Are you Christian, or how do you go about? Yes, I am Christian. I am Christian based. Okay. Thank you guys for asking your questions. So yes, so when it comes to rejection, it is tough, but it's also a big part of life, right? It's not something that we're going to be able to escape. It's not going to be something that we're going to never experience. We're all going to experience it at some capacity. So we have to an extent, become more comfortable with the idea of rejection, and that rejection is going to happen, right? Whether that be in our careers, within relationships, friendships, within family, you're going to experience some form of it, right? So I'm not saying be comfortable with it to the point where you allow yourself to get beat up, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying more so of, don't be surprised by it, because it's going to happen, right? And sometimes I think we navigate life um, surprised by rejection, surprised by the fact that we're not everybody's cup of tea, right? Um, so I think that's the very first thing that we need to wrap our minds around and understand, and even grieve, rather, which is a big aspect of rejection. A lot of times when you're processing rejection, you're grieving. You're grieving a particular situation, a particular person. Grief isn't just associated with death, right? It can be grief of, what could have been or what should have been, right? In quotation marks, right? So there is an element of grief that happens with rejection that I don't think that we really anticipate, and that's what hits us hard, and that's why it makes it so difficult, right? Some of us have different levels of what we're able to accept and process and understand. And so when it comes to thinking about these different spaces of rejection, I want you to take that into consideration as well. Consideration of context and perception, right? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I just wanted to give a precursor of what to expect. This isn't for us to say that rejection will not happen, never, and that if it does happen, that it's bad and it's a horrible thing. It may feel horrible, but it's not necessarily always a bad thing or a horrible thing, okay? So keep that in mind when we're going through all this information. Okay, perfect. So when I'm thinking about the circumstances of rejection, well, let's circle back one more thing. Understand that, or understand what your relationship is with rejection. How has that shown up in your life? And what is your thought process surrounding rejection? What does it mean to you? When I'm rejected, I feel this. When I'm rejected, I automatically, or my automatic thoughts are this. So for example, some of us, when we think of rejection, we automatically think that it's bad. We automatically think it's a failure. We automatically think that it's the end point, that's the end all be all, and then that's it, right? We don't see it as an opportunity for growth. We don't see it as an opportunity to be better. We don't see it as a part of the process, right? Because sometimes rejection is a part of the bigger picture, and without that rejection, we don't see the overall success, or the overall success doesn't happen, right? So outside of us understanding that rejection is a big part of life and that it is going to happen, it's not something that we can escape, we also want to shift how we think about rejection. And especially if we think of rejection as being 100% bad, 100% failure, 100% the end result, right? And that's not always the case, okay? So keep those things in mind. I wanted to give those precursors. Okay, circumstances. So what are some circumstances that we may experience rejection, right? Whether it be in our career, whether it be in school, whether it be, denial in those two spaces. Whether you did an application, you got denied. You did, a grant application for school and you got denied. You applied for a new role and got denied, or you were up for promotion and got denied for a promotion or for a new role. So those are some circumstances that will pop up. There's probably a whole lot more within career. I could go into nuances, but we ain't got that much time, okay? But y'all get what I'm saying. The career thing, because I didn't even get to the social aspect of work in school and feeling of rejection within the social piece. Rejection can be tough sometimes, but could be only a motivation for you to prove others wrong. Yeah, it definitely can be prove others wrong, but I also want to be careful of proving others wrong, because sometimes that rejection drives us to a whole nother state of being, to where we aren't necessarily driving with the, okay, I want to be motivated to move forward and to be a better version of me. When we're focusing on trying to prove things to others and it doesn't work, or that other person doesn't necessarily, even though you may have made the success, but they still don't see you as you want them to see you, that could create more feelings of rejection. So for example, if you have a parent that you grew up in life and they just seen you in a certain light, and because of that rejection or abandonment you felt with that parent, you strive for success to prove them wrong. And when you finally meet that success and then you take it back to that parent and say, hey mom, hey dad, I met this success, what do you say about that? And they have nothing for you, then you experience the rejection all over again. So I always say, yes, you can use that for motivation, but be very careful and leery of that, only because you want to use your worth and your value as your driving force, your internal value that you are able to build up within yourself as your driving force, versus trying to prove others wrong, because it doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you may, meet that success and, your parent or whoever that you're trying to prove yourself to, gives you that pat on the back and they are excited for you. But then other times, and oftentimes it's not, because at the end of the day, we have to understand that we are our own main character within our stories. And sometimes, y'all, people just don't care. And I'm gonna give it to you straight, no chaser. Sometimes people don't care. And so when we get into a state of I want to prove myself to other people, it can be it can create a sense of worthlessness if you are unable to prove them wrong, right? And I'm not saying that you can't be successful to prove them wrong, but even that success they still may not see it, or they may not want to see it. I'm sorry, I went on a tangent, y'all, but I'm leery of that, because it can sometimes bite you in the butt on the other side. Thank you, I appreciate it, Pablo. All right, so when it comes to where was I at, y'all? I went on a tangent. So that was for career, school, and denial of a new role, new promotion. Romantic relationships, breaking up with someone, or people not having an interest. Friendships drifting or ending. Harsh criticisms or negative feedback, whether that be within in a personal relationship or at work. Thank you, Davo. And then social media, of course, is a big space where we may be experiencing some form of rejection. Group exclusion. So some people may have social anxiety, some people are introverted, some people are extroverted. So you may feel some sense of rejection within a friend group, or even just in a social situation in general, like at work. So those are all circumstances you may experience this. Family rejection, like I mentioned, abandonment, or just being treated differently. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Thank you for coming in, y'all. Um, so in with the feeling of abandonment or being treated differently, that's a big one, right? If you are a part of a family, you may feel like the black sheep, or you may feel like you are not accepted, or that you don't fit in, or you may have all of these different feelings that you have internally when it comes to family or just in groups in general. So being treated differently from others is a huge one. And then just being in situations where other people are dismissive, passive aggressive, or even just ignoring you within interactions. So that's just a quick list of circumstances. So 6 steps. How do we move past rejection? I have 6 steps here that we'll go through, and then I have 6 affirmations that you can take away from the conversation. But again, feel free to drop in questions, comments, talk back to me. I appreciate your participation. And yeah, if you need me to repeat anything, let me know. Okay, so how do we move past rejection? Step number 1, acknowledge your emotions. Don't sit in denial, okay? Acknowledge your emotions. Do not sit in denial. The first mistake that we make when processing rejection is that we try to brush it off. Oh, I'm good. It's nothing, We try to brush it off, and we try to move past it despite of how we are feeling or the emotions that we're experiencing. Not saying that you have to make those emotions known to others, but you do want to process that internally. You want to take some time to acknowledge what you're feeling and process it. We talked about sitting with our emotions before, like really allowing yourself to sit with it and process it, and to not deny it. If you're hurt, be hurt. If you're sad, be sad. If you're angry, be angry, right? Some of the emotions, other emotions that you may be experiencing, feelings of loneliness, feelings of shame, embarrassment is a huge one. Sometimes people just don't want to be embarrassed, okay? Thank you. I appreciate you. Sometimes people just don't want to be embarrassed, right? Like the embarrassment of it all, of being rejected, especially if you're rejected in a public setting or a public space where other people know, like, oh, well, I thought you were up for this job, or oh, I thought you were up for this promotion, and then, or oh, I thought you were dating this person, and then all of a sudden you have to have the conversation of you not being up for that job, or not being with that person anymore, or not having that friendship anymore. And that in itself can be a part of the denial, right? So embarrassment, disappointment, hopelessness, frustration, I wrote all these down, y'all, insecurity, resentment, grief, confusion, fear. It's not even just fear of the situation, it's just fear of rejection altogether, right? Defensiveness, worthlessness, isolation. Isolating is a tricky one, y'all. Self-doubt and regret. So just really, and just feeling vulnerable, right? Just feeling like you're unable to, rebound or pick yourself back up or practice resilience, right? Just feeling that overwhelming feeling of hopelessness is what can happen when it comes to rejection, right? So acknowledge is the first point. Acknowledge your emotions. Don't fall into denial. Don't try to lie to yourself or talk yourself out of it, or of what it actually happened. Be honest with yourself about it and acknowledge it and process it. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, consider perceived rejection. Okay? Consider perceived rejection. Interpretation is everything, right? And just because you have a feeling of I've been rejected, that may not necessarily always be the case, right? Because of our own experiences and the way that we process situations is going to be based off of what we know and what we previously experienced. And if you've experienced a lot of rejection, a lot of abandonment, and you couple that with a difficulty of self-worth, all of that bundled in one could now have situations be twisted for you to perceive something as rejection when it isn't really rejection, right? So there's some that may just, if you post something on social media and nobody likes it, right, or nobody comments, or nobody, you do a live and nobody's in the live. I've done lives before where nobody was in here, right? So in that, you may perceive that as rejection, whereas it's really, hey, people haven't hit the algorithm yet, right? People don't see it's on. Maybe it's the wrong time. There's so many other aspects that could go into a situation that may not necessarily be rejection. It could just be circumstances, okay? So consider perceived rejection. Am I perceiving this, or am I interpreting this as rejection when it's really not, okay? There are some instances too where things are not compatible, right? You may, and I'm not even just talking about people, situations, circumstances, jobs. Sometimes things just don't fit, right? Sometimes things are just a numbers game. Maybe it's just even when thinking about the algorithm, it's a numbers game. There's a lot of things that go into that, right? So just thinking about your perception, and if the situation that you experience as far as rejection, is it something that you are perceiving as that, or is it actual rejection? Now, I don't want to dismiss your feelings. I don't want to dismiss anyone's emotions. I don't want to dismiss anyone's situations. By all means, like, if it's something that you don't feel is perceived, and it's definitely a part of rejection, that's something that you definitely need to process it. But a lot of times we can eliminate issues when it comes to rejection, a lot of the times, based off of us just really reflecting on whether this situation is perceived or not. So that's point number 2. Consider perceived rejection. Make sure I'm not missing anything here. Consider the levels. Some rejection when it comes to the experience may be smaller than other circumstances. Like if you had, someone hung up on you when you were, calling and making having a conversation with someone, versus, a huge breakup. Like there's different levels of rejection, right? So taking the time to understand or perceive or to decide or make a choice of, am I going to invest my time, right? Am I going to invest my time into this situation, or is this something that I can just walk away from, right? Make sure I'm not missing anything in number 2. Okay, I think that was it. Yeah. So should I invest my time in this? Okay, that was number 2. Number 3, create distance between the event and your worth. Create distance between the event and your worth, right? So like I mentioned, when it comes to this situation, there are other things that come into play. Compatibility, your values, your goals, your timing. Is it a numbers game, right? Taking all of that into consideration and separating those two things between the actual situation and your worth. This rejection doesn't equate to your worth going up and down. I remember we talked about before your worth meter. And sometimes we take our worth meter and we take it up and down based off of what's happening, based off of circumstances. And that's not the case. It's not going to, just because you experience some form of rejection, it doesn't mean that your worth has changed. It doesn't mean that it diminishes. It doesn't mean that it goes up and down. It just means that this is what happened, but I'm still worthy. I still have value, and this doesn't depict a picture of what my value is, right? So distance the two, because sometimes we take the rejection and we personify it into and internalize it within ourselves. Some things we just can't take personally. And I know that's easier said than done because a lot of things feel personal, right? But we have to take into consideration the things that we are personifying and the things that we are taking internally within our heart and saying, oh, this is who I am versus this is what's happened. Okay? So distance it to as much as you can. And then also to understanding that, especially when it comes to people specifically, regardless of whether it's in the workplace or your family or a romantic relationship or a friend, sometimes people just are not in the space to give you what you need in that particular situation. So the rejection may just be they don't have the capacity, right? If you ask me for $50, right, and I got 22, and I tell you no, I can't give you $50. It's not because I'm rejecting you. It's not because I don't want to give it to you. It's just I just simply don't have it, right? So sometimes when we're in relationships, we're asking for people to love us the way that we want to be loved, but they just don't have the capacity. And instead of us trying to force feed or force fit things and try to make things work based off of what we perceive to be able to be provided, if someone says they can't give it to you, then they can't give it to you, right? That's not necessarily rejection. That's just a matter of compatibility. It's a matter of timing, because some people just aren't healed or not in a space where they're able to provide love or patience or exercise any of the joy or love of a relationship. They just don't have that capacity. But a lot of times we internalize those things to say, oh, well, I'm not lovable because they weren't able to love me. No, it's not, has nothing to do with whether you were lovable. It's more so of, are they able to provide me what I need? And if they can't, then they can't, right? So again, making sure to really think rational about these things, taking a logical approach. Sometimes we get so filled with emotion that we're unable to process what's actually happening and what's actually in front of us. So you may need space to do that. You may need the space to acknowledge and process your emotions before getting to this space or this place in the list. This is why it's number 3. Okay, this is why it's number 3. It's not number 1, but it may take you some time to get to that space. But really allowing yourself to go through this process and go step by step is what's going to allow you to come out on the other side, a better version of you. Okay. So that was number 3, create distance between the event and your worth. Number 4, process any lessons of the redirection, because that's really what rejection is. It's a redirection. It's a redirection to a different path, to a different state, or it could just be not even a redirection, but protection. Not even just protection from others, but protection from yourself. Maybe you're just not ready, right? And we may think we're ready, but we may not have been, ready to go into that new space or to have that new experience. So rejection is redirection, but it also is protection. And it's not just protection from others, because it definitely can be protection from others, because sometimes we don't see things. We see things on the surface, and then we get in it, we're like, oh, well, this probably isn't what I wanted, right? So it definitely can be protection from others, but it also can be protection of ourselves. It would be crazy for you to go into a situation that you're not ready for, right? Because if you go into a situation that you're not ready for, and if you would have just waited 6 more months of development and then going into that situation, it could make all the difference of the outcome of that situation, right? And again, that's for your career, that's for relationships. You don't want to jump into relationships before you're ready, right? Because if you jump in before you're ready, then it can create a big domino effect of chaos, frustration. Whereas if you would have taken a little bit more time, an extra 4 months, an extra 6 months, even an extra year, 2 years, however much time you would need to grow and to heal, and then when you go into that new relationship, when you're actually ready, that would make all the difference. So yes, it's redirection. Yes, it's protection from others, but it's also protection from ourselves. Okay. especially even in our careers. You don't want to go into a new role that you're not necessarily ready for. Now, sometimes we may surprise ourselves, okay? But a lot of times it's all about timing. And as I say all the time, I always believe that all things work together for the good, right? There's nothing that's happening in this life that is just happening just to happen. I feel like there is definitely a purpose for everything that happens, the good and the bad. And when we are experiencing rejection, I feel like there's always something that we can pull out of it. There's always a lesson that we can learn. And that actually leads us to the next. Did I do number 4? Process any lessons of redirection? Yes. So process any lessons. So learn a lesson. Be willing to ask why, y'all. Be willing to ask why. Now, granted, this isn't in every situation, but in situations that you're able to get feedback from others, don't be afraid of that why, right? Don't be afraid to ask. Now, some situations, let it go. Just walk away, okay? Because people just doing stuff just to do stuff, okay? But there are situations where asking why can be valuable, right? Whether it be within your job, like, hey, I didn't get this promotion. Why? Is there any feedback that you have for me? Yeah, these are the points of what we think you can work on, and then maybe in 6 months you'll be at a better state to be up for promotion. That is helpful, right? But sometimes you get in our feelings of rejection, and we don't want to be open to feedback or open to the conversation, and then we miss the lesson, right? Because we were unwilling to ask why. Right? Now, I'm not saying to ask why and be a jerk about it, okay? I'm not saying that. But I'm saying even if it takes you some time to process the situation before asking the why, do that. But if you have an opportunity to ask why, if you have an opportunity for constructive feedback, ask for it, right? There may be some validity to our rejection that we experience. That's a possibility, y'all. Like I said, rejection is redirection. It's protection from others, but it's also protection from ourselves. There may be some validity behind it, and that's okay. That's all right. We're all here to learn. We're all here to evolve. We're all here to grow. And rejection doesn't have to be bad. It just means that I have an opportunity to get better. And again, that's okay. We're all growing. We're all learning. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect in this world. And we're all evolving and getting better. And we have to get to a point where we're okay with that. We're okay with, not being perfect at everything. That takes me back to the Perfection Live about 2 weeks ago. So if you're struggling with perfection, rejection, that's a monster for anyone that is struggling with perfection. So if that's a struggle, make sure to go back to the Perfection Live and check it out. But rejection is the perfectionist nightmare. Okay. But yes, there may be validity, and that's okay. It's okay to ask why. Okay. Number 5. Reframe the narrative you tell yourself about rejection, whether it be rejection in general or rejection within that experience. I'm sorry, y'all. I felt like I got something in my eye, but I'll be all right. Might be an eyelash. Reframe the narrative you tell yourself, right? So focus on healing the rejection wound, right? Because a lot of us may have that rejection wound to the point where, like I was saying earlier, where we're not being honest with yourself, we're being more in denial versus being transparent. So focus on healing the rejection wound, whether that be through therapy, whether that be if you are spiritual and you're processing it with God and prayer and meditation and fasting and things of that matter, however you need to process that, but making that rejection wound, healing that a priority. Because the more that you're able to heal that, the more that you're able to process that, the better off you will be, to where you can focus on those real difficult rejection situations and allowing the other small stuff to roll off, and not allowing ourselves to internalize everything. So that, yes, focus on healing the rejection wound. And then also, um, and I said this before, rejection isn't always bad. Remove fear and the anticipation from the equation. I'll say that again. Remove fear and anticipation from the equation. Okay? Sometimes rejection feels hard or harder than it typically would because we anticipate the rejection. We anticipate that it's going to happen, okay? And we replay it and we create anxiety and fear surrounding rejection to the point where when it actually happens, it feels like monstrous. Like it just feels horrible, right? And instead of us allowing ourselves to embrace and understand that rejection is a part of life, it just makes it 10 times worse. Okay? So your brain doesn't always react to what it knows, it reacts to what it repeats. Okay? I'll say that again. Your brain doesn't always react to what it knows, it reacts to what it repeats. So whatever you repeat in your mind over and over and over again, that instant replay, that ESPN replay that we'd have on our brains over and over and over again of the thought processes and the negative thoughts and the negative self-talk that we may be experiencing, it's going to, if we continue to allow it to replay, that's what we're going to react to. Okay? So keep in mind that when we're thinking about rejection, remove the fear and the anticipation of it, right? As much as you can, right? We're human, we're not perfect. But remove the fear and the anticipation of rejection from the equation. Because if you're going to replay like, oh, they're going to reject me, 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 what's going to happen? They're going to reject you. Okay? Or if they don't reject you, or they say something that may feel a certain way, or it may trigger, they may not even be rejecting you. It's just because of your perception, right? We talked about perception. Because of your perception of the situation, now I feel like I'm rejected when I'm not, right? I saw I forget what video this was. It was like the Pop the Balloon, right? You know, like the dating show, Pop the Balloon. So it was a girl that was on the video that she popped her balloon, and I think her name was Arlette, the host. Arlette asked her why, and she was like, "Oh, well, I popped my balloon because I didn't think that he liked girls like me, right?" And he's like, "No, I love girls like you," right? But in her head, she was anticipating the rejection. She was anticipating and she had the fear and the anticipation of this man was going to reject her, right? That's based off of what we repeat, not necessarily what we know. Hey, Dr. Quinn, welcome in. Yes, it was an example of Pop the Balloon. It was an example. A Pop the Balloon example for rejection. That's what I was talking about. But yeah, so that's that, right? Reframe the narrative and what you tell yourself in regards to rejection, and understand that your brain doesn't react to what it knows, it reacts to what it repeats, okay? And then number 6, move forward with practicing self-compassion. Move forward while practicing self-compassion. I can't talk today, y'all. So when it comes to moving forward, reflect on how you will move forward, right? What does that look like? What does the plan look like? What is the new goaling? What is strategic that you can do? What's something that you can do that's proactive, right? Is it setting boundaries? Is it reestablishing your values? Is it in that you'll be able to begin to make peace with the rejection that you experience? The more that you're able to focus on the positive, which is your growth, and then also focus on what's next and moving forward, the more you'll be able to make peace, right? If you're unable to make peace, then you may have to circle back to number 1. You may have to go back to number 1 and go through that again, because you want to be able to be in a place where you're able to make peace with whatever happened, okay? Not saying that you condone things. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you want to be able to make peace with the situation, so that way when you move forward, there isn't any animosity, there isn't any hurt or anything that's sitting, sitting stale in your body. Because guess what? Trauma sits in the body, y'all. It sits in the body. It affects our digestion. It affects our heart. It affects our nervous system. It affects our brain. Trauma even changes and alters our brain, right? It changes how effective our neurotransmitters are in our brain, and each transmitter focuses on a different thing, and so the trauma can actually alter that to where it dysfunctions, which is why we have mental health issues. This is where it comes from. So keep that in mind, y'all. You want your brain to be healthy? Let it go. You want your brain to be healthy? Let it go. Release it. Because the more that you hold in, the more that sits in your heart, the more that sits in your spirit and in your soul, the more it affects your body internally. This is how people end up with high blood pressure. This is how people end up with depression. This is how people end up with all of these different situations, high anxiety and panic attacks and things of that matter. That's how it happens. Okay, that was number 6. Let me make sure I'm not moving anything or forgetting anything. I kind of mentioned it, but you also just want to ensure that you release it, because you don't want to fall into cognitions of self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, denial, projection, passive aggressiveness. You don't want to fall into those traps, because that makes things worse. Okay, so that was number 6. So just to kind of circle back to the beginning, number 1 was acknowledge your emotions, don't sit in denial. Number 2 was consider your perceived rejection. Number 3 was create distance between the event and your worth. Number 4 was process any lessons of the redirection. Number 5 was reframe the narrative you tell yourself. And then number 6 is move forward while practicing self-compassion. Those are the 6 steps to move past rejection. So I hope this is helpful, y'all. We'll go ahead and dive into affirmations. I have 6 here. Feel free to take these down and use these however you wish to. If you want to write them down, please do. If you need to change the language, please do. If you're going to record yourself saying them, however you feel like you would benefit the most, please do that. And again, please, if you need to change how it sounds, it doesn't sound right, doesn't sound how you talk, please change it. This is just a framework, y'all. It's okay. Okay. Number 1. Yes, I was going to do a different one, but I think I'll do this one. So number 1, my value is not diminished by someone else's inability to see it. My value is not diminished by someone's inability to see it. My value is not diminished by someone's inability to see it. Okay? So just because someone cannot see your value, right? And that may be because they can't see it, or they don't want to see it, or they refuse to see it, right? Just because they're unable to see that value, it doesn't mean that your worth or your value has disappeared. It just means that they can't see it. And that's their eye problem. They need glasses, okay? That's their eye problem. It ain't got nothing to do with you, all right? So my value is not diminished by someone else's inability to see it. It's okay. They just can't see it, and that's on them. That's not on me. All right? Number 2, who I am is enough regardless of who chooses me. Who I am is enough regardless of who chooses me. Who I am is enough regardless of who chooses me. And at the end of the day, God chose me. So, again, it don't matter. So just understanding that you are enough as you are. If someone chooses you, they choose you. If they don't, if someone chooses you, they choose you. If they don't, they don't. And that's okay. right? And if you internally don't feel like that's okay, that's something that you have to process. Not everybody's going to choose you. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to love you. And that's okay, right? They don't have to. You don't like everybody. You don't love everybody, right? You don't choose everybody. So not everybody's going to choose you. Not everybody's going to love you. Not everybody's going to like you. And that's okay. All right? Sorry if that came off harsh, but it's the truth. Just, I got to keep it straight with y'all, right? And I think sometimes we find ourselves, we get in these people-pleasing modes where we want everyone to like us. We want everyone to love us. Some people are just committed to not liking you. Even our own family members. Even our own parents. Some people are just committed to not liking us, and that's okay. Let them stew in it. But that's not your issue. That's a them issue. Okay? Now, do we all have self-work that we have to do to be better and to evolve and become a better version of ourselves? And that may be a part of like why people have issues with us. That can definitely be the case. But if they don't see your value now, then why invest time into forcing that person, especially in romantic relationships? Because I will tell somebody deuces real quick. Real fast in a hurry, you know? And it's not anything to be mean about. It's just like, you know what? Hey, like, we're looking for different things. I don't think that this is going to work. We have different values. We're not compatible. We don't like the same things. I don't like how you talk to me, right? Like there's things that are just non-negotiables. And sometimes we go back and forth on those things because we haven't established what we will and will not accept within ourselves. But once you take the time to establish, okay, I will accept this. This is what I want. This is what I desire. This is what I'm looking for. And I will not accept these things. And when you are concrete in that, you'll start to weed people out a lot quicker. I feel like a lot of us spend a lot of time in relationships with people, whether it be friendships or romantic relationships, because we're trying to force people to be in this state of being that we want them to be, instead of just finding someone that's already in that state of being. I don't got time to be trying to force people and to grow people up, okay? I just need to find somebody that is already in that state, and then I choose whether I want to participate in a relationship with them. That's how it is at the end of the day. And again, that's not just romantic, that's friendship. Sometimes we are in incompatible friendships. It's like you barely like her, you barely like him, but you just hang out just because they're around, right? Like really, really think through these things. Again, I hope I'm not sounding like harsh, but this is the fact of the matter. Like sometimes we waste time in situations that we know are not conducive for what we want and what we need. What was that? I went on the tangent, y'all. My bad. That was number 2. Dang, that was number 2. Sorry, y'all. My bad. Number 3. Number 3. Closed doors protect me from circumstances that may have harmed me. Closed doors protect me from circumstances that may have harmed me. Closed doors protect me from circumstances that may have harmed me. You don't know what's on the other side of that door, okay? Everything that glitters ain't gold. And you don't know what's on the other side of that door. And just because the door is glowing doesn't mean that is roses and peaches and cream on the other side, okay? So if you have a closed door in your life, that can be redirection, again, protection from others or protection from yourself. And that's okay, right? That's okay that you experienced a closed door. It doesn't equate to your worth. It doesn't equate to your value. It just means that it wasn't for you. And that's okay, right? Everything can't be for you, right? Some things are for you, some things are not, right? So keep that in mind when thinking about closed doors. There must be something on the other side that was not for me. And when you approach it that way, you'll see how quickly you'll be able to move past and keep going to the next thing, right? And even when you're thinking about Jobs. I know a lot of people are like right now in the job market and applying to jobs. You have to really take into consideration that some of these companies ain't all as cracked up to be, y'all. And I'm a recruiter by trade, right? Like some of these companies are not all as cracked up to be. So closed doors definitely can be protection by all means. Okay. So keep that in mind. And also too, applications, and even though it feels like it sucks as far as like looking for work, it's the worst, especially during this time. Understand that you may be applying for a role, even just thinking about roles that I have worked in the past. It could be one slot, one position, thousands, I mean thousands of applications, right? So we get all caught up because we got rejected, from an application. Now granted, I get it, getting a bunch of rejection emails sucks, it's like the worst. But if you really think about it, you're applying for one role, thousands of people are applying to that one role. Those rejections are a numbers game. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not compatible for the job, that you don't have value. It all has to do with numbers and timing. When did they post a job? If they just post a job yesterday, that's one thing. If they posted a job 3 weeks ago, thousands of people have applied by now. During this time, actually, if they posted it maybe like 24 hours ago, probably still thousands of people have applied. So don't let those rejection letters beat you up. Don't allow that. I don't know who I'm talking to or why I'm on this, but don't allow those rejection letters, those rejection emails to get you flustered. It's a numbers game. It doesn't speak to your value. Okay, what number was that? Okay, I'm progressing, y'all. I'm sorry. Number 4. All that is meant for me will find me, and what is not has already served its purpose. All that is meant for me will find me, and what is not has already served its purpose. Oh, it's thunder and lightning outside, y'all. All that is meant for me will find me, and what is not has already served its purpose. Seasons, right? Some things just expired. Some things just wore out its welcome in your life, okay? And if it's not the right season and it's closing, the door is closing, that means it served its purpose. It served its purpose in your life, whether it's a situation, a job, a person, it served its purpose. You don't want to be out there looking for snow right now, right? It's summertime. And you look outside and you see it snowing. You're like, okay, this ain't right. This is the wrong season. Why is it snowing right now? It makes no sense, right? Same with our lives. Our lives go through seasons. There are seasons for this, and there are seasons for that. Bible talks about that. There's a season for laughter. There's a season for grieving. There's so many seasons that we go through, right? Allow yourself to move to the next season. Allow yourself to gradually go from fall to winter, from winter to spring, from spring to summer. And sometimes things are closed, or doors are closed, or things are removed because it served its purpose and it's expired. Sometimes we outgrow people. Sometimes we outgrow situations. Sometimes we evolve and outgrow our environments. That's okay. You know what I mean? It's all right. Number 4. That was number 4. Number 5. Curiosity guides me. Assumptions do not define me. Curiosity guides me. Assumptions do not define me. Curiosity guides me. Assumptions do not define me. Be curious instead of assumptive. Okay? Ask questions instead of us being assumptive in our brains and keeping it there and allowing that to repeat over and over again, right? Be curious. The curiosity will guide you. into moving past rejection or to move past situations, versus assumptions will keep you in that state of mind or that state of being of rejection. It will keep you in that sadness. It will keep you in that hopelessness. It will keep you in those feelings of worthlessness. It will keep you in depression when you're continuing to be assumptive and then you're looping the assumptions. Be curious, ask questions. That will help you evolve and guide you out and move you and navigate you out of those feelings of rejection. And then lastly, number 6, rejection refines. I'm going to say this slowly. Rejection refines, not defines. I welcome growth, transparency, and courage. Rejection refines, not defines. I welcome growth, transparency, and courage. One last time. Rejection refines, not defines. I welcome growth, transparency, and courage. Okay? So understanding that it's just going to refine what's happening next. It's not going to define who you are. Okay? Again, it's going to just refine what's happening next. It's not going to define who you are as a person. Take these situations of rejection as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for transparency, and an opportunity for courage, for boldness, okay? Because it will do nothing but help you evolve and be a better version of you. Once you start getting comfortable with rejection, I know there's some people that say to intentionally put yourself in situations of rejection, especially if you are in a field of rejection. I do think that works. However you decide if you want to do that or if that's something that you desire to do, you don't have to. I did see like a video of a guy who he just started walking throughout the street and just started complimenting people on random things, and just to see what their responses are. Because you may experience rejection where people may ignore you or they just may say buzz off or whatever, but it's something that's light that you're able to kind of move past. It just kind of gives you a sense of, well, you know, they said whatever they said, but it's okay. Way of practice. That may not work for everybody, but if you feel like it will be helpful for you, especially like if you're in jobs like sales, if you are in any type of positions where you have to do some form of selling or some form of convincing someone to do something that they buy something or whatever, it may be helpful to put yourself in situations to where you have to get used to hearing that rejection, especially when it comes to like people who do auditions and acting and things of that matter. Like if you are in a job or a field where you're consistently experiencing rejection and you're struggling in this area, you might have to have that additional practice. Me being in recruiting, you experience rejection a lot. So it's just something that I'm used to, and it's something I just don't take personal. It depends. Some things you may take personal. You're human. You're not a robot, right? We're not ChatGPT around here. But just keep in mind that if you're in situations or if you even want to go into a career that experiences a lot of rejection, I don't like to say you may need to practice rejection, but there may be an element of you just getting used to people telling you no and you being okay with that. Some people just can't be told no. And to me, my thought process, this is something I learned from a mentor a long ago. What's the worst they can say? No. How bad is that really? All right? So keep that all in mind. I hope this was helpful, y'all. I hope this shed some light on rejection. I know that this was highly asked for, so I'm glad we got a chance to talk through it. If you have any questions for me, please let me know. Shoot me questions in the comments once this is posted, because this will post and you'll be able to ask questions there. Or you can always shoot me a message at info@haveninspired.com. If you haven't already, make sure to go to haveninspired.com to register for the newsletter. I'll do a weekly newsletter every Wednesday for mindfulness tips and updates in regards to our lives. So make sure to do that. Otherwise, y'all all have a great rest of your evening. I really do appreciate your time tonight. And I will see you all next Monday. And we're talking about, what was the topic next Monday? Next Monday was radical self care. So we'll talk about radical self care next Monday. So come back, and I will see you all next week. Bye bye.